Let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the really profound psychological themes from ethos, a space that's all about finding quiet reflection and emotional clarity. We're going to zero in on human behavior, authenticity, and why we do what we do when we think literally no one is looking. So let's map out some of these incredibly powerful insights into personal growth. So, why do you feel invisible even when you do so much? This gets right at that painful internal monologue so many of us have, doesn't it? You pour your absolute heart and soul into your work, your relationships, just keeping up with daily tasks, and yet you walk away feeling totally unseen. Why is that? We usually just assume the world is actively ignoring us, but the source material points to something way more internal happening here. And this slide brilliantly illustrates the central aha thesis we're looking at. The default human assumption is, well, if I feel invisible, I must just be fundamentally flawed. But the reality Athros reveals is completely different. Your deepest insecurities, they aren't personal failures. Your brain is actually running a hidden protective program, working overtime just to shield you from emotional harm. Let's move right into part 1, the fear of being seen. We'll unpack the psychology of invisibility. Look at this crucial point. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of being seen. Think about that for a second. We spend so much time in our culture obsessing over overcoming this supposed fear of failure. But what we often misdiagnose as a fear of failing is actually a deep-seated terror of vulnerability. You aren't really scared to try. You're terrified of the visibility that comes right along with trying. This fear of visibility operates as a psychological defense mechanism, where you actively shrink away just to avoid the emotional risk of being judged. And the irony? By making ourselves small, we end up creating the exact invisibility we're suffering from. You feel invisible because, on a totally subconscious level, your brain has decided that shrinking down is the absolute safest way for you to exist. That brings us to part 2, the mask of adaptability. Let's look at why adapting too well actually costs you your identity. Ask yourself this super relatable question. Why do you feel fake around some people? Come on, we've all been there. You walk into a room, or maybe you meet up with a specific group of friends, and suddenly you feel like an actor just reading off a script. Then you walk away feeling totally inauthentic, just wondering why you couldn't be yourself. Once again, we've got to reframe a negative self-judgment into a neutral psychological reality. The myth in your head tells you that you're just a fake, manipulative person changing colors to match the room. But the reality? Feeling fake is really just your brain overworking to help you blend into social environments safely. It is literally a survival tactic to protect you from social rejection. This is a really thought-provoking concept that makes you stop in your tracks. You don't know who you are because you adapt too well. We usually praise adaptability, right? We literally put it on our resumes. But when you adapt so seamlessly to absolutely everyone around you, the boundaries of your own authentic self really start to blur. Wearing this mask leads to a few major symptoms. First, you start losing your core identity. You actually forget what you genuinely like versus what you're just pretending to like. Second, constant overthinking, because your brain is always frantically analyzing the room. And finally, you start performing even when you are totally alone. You become so used to curating your personality that you get stuck in performance mode, purely out of habit. Let's slide into part 3, the low-maintenance trap. Here's the hidden cost of needing nothing. Referencing this specific concept straight from Athros, being low maintenance or ignoring yourself really highlights a massive cultural tension. We so often wear the label of being chill or easy to please like it's a badge of honor. But we really need to stop and question what we're actually doing here. Are we truly easygoing, or are we actively abandoning ourselves? What looks like this wonderfully positive social trait is actually just a form of emotional suppression. When someone compliments you saying, "Oh, you're so easygoing," it feels pretty great in the moment. But the reality is often that you're actively ignoring your own needs just to avoid conflict. You aren't low maintenance, you've just learned to maintain yourself in complete silence. Which brings us to our final section, part 4, protection, not laziness. Let's redefine your lack of motivation. This profound statement completely flips the script. You're not lazy, your brain is blocking you. Think about how many times you have beaten yourself up for just lacking motivation. We hurl the word lazy at ourselves like it's a weapon. But what if that entire framework is just completely wrong? Brain blocking is a neurological response where your brain halts action to protect you from perceived overwhelm. What we so harshly label as a moral failing, laziness, is actually just your nervous system slamming on the emergency brakes. It's doing that to protect you from an emotional threat, like the fear of being seen or just sheer burnout. It literally cuts the power. So it's protection. It's not a lack of willpower. Summarizing the core philosophy of Athros here, the path forward really requires a massive shift from cruel self-judgment to compassionate self-awareness. First up, recognize the behavior. Notice when you feel invisible or fake. Second, identify the mechanism. Ask yourself, okay, what is my brain actually trying to protect me from right now? And third, replace that knee-jerk self-judgment with quiet, honest reflection. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you ready to stop performing when no one is watching? Keep this question tumbling around in your mind as you reflect on the psychological masks you might be wearing right this very second. Understanding your mind is the very first step to truly unmasking it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope these insights have given you a powerful new perspective on your internal world.